I heard you last night say that Steve Bannon was using a tortured version of executive privilege. Well, he was there for 12 hours. So, yeah, I imagine you talked about something.
Well, we spent the first half of the day trying to understand what in the world he was talking about with executive privilege. His version of executive privilege is it covers the transition, it covers the time he was at the White House, and it covers time in memorial. That is no one's definition of executive privilege. So we spent several hours trying to figure out just what the heck he was talking about. And then in the afternoon, we had to dodge around these three categories that are apparently off limits. Now, Bill, keep in mind, this is the same person who accused two of the president's family members of committing treasonous acts. So, of course, we're going to want to cross-examine him on what he thinks was treasonous. But if everything's off limits, that's a really short conversation.
So I take it you asked him about the treasonous comment and he did not answer it, right?
I tried to. Well, that's the beauty of it. He answered it initially, and then apparently his lawyer didn't like the fact that he answered it, so then he clammed up. That is an eminently reasonable, legitimate question. If you're going to accuse somebody of a crime for which you can be put to death, what is your evidence for that? So I don't know anyone who wouldn't ask that question. He started to answer it, and then his lawyers got involved, and that usually messes up almost everything, and that's why we were there for a long time yesterday, but we're going to have to go back tomorrow.
You sound frustrated. Do I have that right?
I am frustrated whenever people assert privileges that do not exist. And I am really frustrated when witnesses have all the time in the world to talk to the media on and off the record, and they can help people write books, but they can't talk to the representatives that are elected by their fellow citizens. I mean, picture that. He's happy to tell an author about treasonous, unpatriotic acts, but he won't tell members of Congress when he's pressed on it. I'm not aware of any privilege that lets you pick and choose who you answer questions for.
I understand the point you're making, and any reason to expect there's a difference tomorrow. Now, did you settle any ground rules late yesterday that would indicate that would be different on Thursday?
Bill, there's one thing that can fix it, which is the White House instructs Steve Bannon, we're not asserting executive privilege. We are telling you to answer all of the questions that Congress has. That could fix it in a nanosecond.
Yeah.
If the White House would say, answer their questions, Steve.
Have you found evidence of collusion?
No, sir. But we're not through yet. And some of my colleagues have already made up their minds, namely Adam Schiff. He found collusion before we even started. So I'm not sure how you do that, but he did it. I have seen no evidence of collusion between the president and the Russians, the president's campaign and the Russians. But we still have more interviews to do.
Okay, two more questions here. Corey Lewandowski appears today. Do you expect him to have the same posture as Steve Bannon?
I hope not. I hope not. It would be all we're doing is delaying. I mean, keep in mind the president and some of his supporters want Congress to hurry up and conclude these investigations. So do I. The best way to do that is to instruct witnesses to answer our questions instead of going through this charade of executive privilege.